Howdy folks, and welcome back to Beam Firearms, where we get down to brass tacks on guns, ammo, and the kind of self-defense that actually matters. Today, we're taking a look at a revolver that ain't just easy on the eyes. It's built like a tank, but with a steady hand and a sharp aim. I'm talking about the Ruger GP100, a real bruiser of a handgun that's made to take a licking and keep on ticking. If you've got a soft spot for firearms that are tougher than a $2 steak and never back down, you're in the right place. And hey, if this kind of straight shooting review sounds like your cup of coffee, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe to Beam Firearms for more deep dive reviews and backwoods tested insight. All right, let's get the ball rolling by getting to know the GP100 a little better. Now, this ain't just another sick shooter. What you've got here is a real deal piece of Ruger's grit, and know how a working man's proof that toughness and clever design can live in the same wheel gun. And believe it or not, the GP100's family tree reaches all the way back to a French police sidearm. Yep, got a little international spice in its bloodline, but we'll chew on that piece a bit later. Right now, let's zero in on what sets this iron apart in a sea of revolvers. See, Ruger's always had a reputation for cranking out rock-solid firearms, and this one's no different. Folks often call it a tank wearing a trigger, and they ain't just whistling Dixie. This wheel gun was born to take a beating and keep right on barking. The GP100's frame is thicker and packs more heft than a lot of others in its class. It might not take home any ribbons at a beauty pageant, but when push comes to shove, I'd pick sturdy over pretty every day of the week. When your life's riding on that next shot, looks don't mean a thing. It's all about dependability. Now let's turn the page and dig into how this bruiser came to be. Ruger first made waves with their single-action revolvers, but come 1972, they figured it was time to throw their hat into the lawman's ring with the Security 6. That was Ruger's first go at a double-action revolver, and boy, did it make a mark. It was plain, rugged, and easier on the wallet than what the other big dogs like Smith & Wesson's Model 19, Model 66, and that fancy Colt Python were offering. The Security 6 earned itself a solid name as a no-nonsense workhorse. Even the U.S. Border Patrol put it to good use. But Ruger ain't the kind to sit back and pat themselves on the back. They knew the Security 6, for all its backbone, wasn't built to chew through a steady stream of hot .357 Magnum loads. So, come the early 1980s, Ruger got to work on something tougher, a revolver that could eat .357 rounds for breakfast and still ask for seconds. The end product? The GP100 rolled out around 1985. Ruger took all the good from the Security 6 and cranked the volume clean up to 11. They beefed up the frame, thickened that top strap, and gave the cylinder a triple lock setup, one up front, one in the rear, and another underneath instead of just one or two. That triple locking cylinder I mentioned? It's a real game changer, folks. What it does is keep that cylinder snug and square, even when you're sending those stout .357 Magnum rounds downrange. And I'll tell you straight, that kind of tight lockup means better shooting and a revolver that'll hold up for the long haul. But hang on, we're not done yet. The GP100 also sports an underlug that ain't just window dressing. That chunk of steel down below helps balance the gun and keeps recoil in check, especially when you're throwing late in a hurry. It's one of those little touches that makes a big difference when you're trying to stay on target. Now, if safety's on your mind, and it ought to be, Ruger didn't cut corners. They built in a transfer bar safety system that's mighty clever. In plain speak, it means the hammer can't touch off a round unless the trigger's pulled. So if you're the type to carry with the hammer down on a full cylinder, you've got some peace of mind. Let's circle back to that French connection I mentioned earlier. Late in the 1970s, French law enforcement found themselves needing a duty revolver that didn't cost an arm and a leg. Their homegrown MR-73 was a fine piece of iron, no doubt, but it was too spendy to hand out across the board. That's when Ruger teamed up with Manurin to whip up the Manurin Special Police, basically a Security 6 frame married to barrels and cylinders made on French soil. That partnership worked so well, it gave rise to the MR88, a full-on French-made revolver built from the ground up. Meanwhile, back here in the States, Ruger wasn't sitting idle. They were taking the bones of the Security 6 and beefing it up, using their know-how in investment casting to build a stouter, heavier frame without jacking up the price tag. What came out the other side was a revolver that could soak up the hard-kicking recoil of .357 Magnum loads without loosening up over time. Let's talk design and stack it up against the rest. First thing on the list, that triple locking cylinder. I know, sounds like something out of a science fiction flick, but it's really just good, solid engineering. Most wheel guns lock up at 1 or maybe 2 points. The GP100? She locks up in 3 spots: front, rear, and down low at the bottom of the frame. Now, why's that a big deal? Well, when you're running full tilt with something like a .357 Magnum, you want that cylinder sitting tight and true. That triple lock keeps everything lined up just right, which means you're shooting straighter and your gun's taking less of a beating in the long haul. It's like bolting 3 deadlocks on your cabin door instead of one. Just plain feels safer. Some of y'all might be thinking, I heard the cylinder's got a little wiggle to it. Is that normal? Sure is. Unlike some of them old Colts that clamp up tighter than a bear trap, the GP100 is built with just a hair of play on purpose. That bit of give lets the forcing cone do its job, guiding each bullet into the barrel even if things are a hair off. So don't go fretting if your cylinder ain't locked up like Fort Knox. It's supposed to be that way. And Ruger didn't keep this little trick all to themselves. They rolled that same triple lock setup into other models like the SP101 and the Super Red Hawk. Goes to show it ain't just a gimmick, it works. Now while we're jawing about design, let's get into the frame. The GP100's built from a single hunk of steel, no side plate in sight. That's a big dang deal. Most revolvers, Smith & Wessons for instance, have a side plate you take off to fiddle with the guts. Ruger looked at that and said, nope, we're building this like a logging skidder. By skipping the side plate, they cut out one more place where the frame could flex or bust under pressure. Kind of like how a unibody truck frame holds up better than one bolted together in pieces. It's just tougher. Ruger even had a little fun with it. They ran ads showing their burly GP100 sitting next to a Smith & Wesson, basically hollering, ours is thicker, so it's better. Smith & Wesson fired back with a tongue-in-cheek aid of their own big old burger patty, and the line, thicker doesn't mean better or stronger. It just means bulkier. Gotta hand it to 'em, that was a good one. Still, let's cut through the banter. When you're talking revolvers, especially those chambered in hard-hitting Magnum rounds, a little extra meat on the bones ain't a bad thing. More steel means more strength, and that's worth its weight when you're sending hot loads downrange. Another handy thing about that solid GP100 frame, maintenance is a breeze. The trigger assembly pops out in one piece. None of that fumbling around with a side plate and a mess of little springs and screws. If you're the kind that likes keeping your iron clean, or you just enjoy getting under the hood and tinkering, this setup's right up your alley. Now let's jaw a bit about grips. Ruger went and did something clever with the GP100's grip system. Instead of a full-blown grip frame like most, they used what they call a grip peg. That's just a single anchor point, and it makes swapping grips as easy as pie. Whether you've got paws like a grizzly or smaller hands that need a slimmer fit, you can find a grip that suits you just fine. Sure, Smith & Wesson's got grip options too, but they're tied more to the shape of the metal frame. Ruger's peg setup gives you a heap more flexibility. And on top of that, it beefs up the revolver's structure, more steel where it counts, less fuss where it don't. Comfort and customization, both covered. But don't go forgetting the heart of this wheel gun reliability. The GP100's built to gobble up Magnum cartridges without so much as a hiccup, and that grip peg's part of the whole rugged picture. You end up with a revolver that's dang near bomb-proof, but still fits your hand like a custom-forged glove. It's like slipping into a suit of armor made just for you, tough as railroad spikes, but fits like Sunday best. Now, some folks love the no-frills, hard-nosed look of the GP100. They see it for what it is, a tool that don't pretend to be anything fancy. Others, they say it looks like it got kicked out of a toolbox. And to be fair, they're not entirely wrong. But if you're throwing hot loads downrange all day, you learn quick that function beats form every time. And this gun delivers function in spades. One place where the GP100 really pulls ahead is versatility. It ain't just a .357 Magnum shooter. Ruger's chambered it in a spread of calibers. There's a .327 Federal Magnum version that packs 7 rounds instead of the usual 6. That's one more shot in the cylinder, not a bad little bonus. You've also got a .44 Special model that holds 5 rounds, keeps the size manageable, but lets you step up to a bigger bore. And if you're into plinking or teaching the next generation how to shoot, there's a .22 long rifle version with a 10-round cylinder. That kind of variety is hard to find in the revolver world. Most sticks stay in their lane, 1, maybe 2 calibers, but Ruger saw an open trail and ran with it. Whether you're wanting a high-capacity rimfire, a flexible .327 for mixing up your 32 loads, or a hard-thumping .44 Special, there's a GP100 that fits the bill. And the best part, every single one of them sticks to the same, tried and true, rock-solid design that's earned this revolver its place in the ranks. Real-world performance and law enforcement use. The GP100 is built to eat .357 Magnum rounds like they're nothing, and it does it with style. Whether you're just out burning powder at the range or caught in a high-stress moment where every single shot matters, this revolver shows up and gets the job done. That triple lock-in cylinder makes sure every round lines up true, which keeps your accuracy tight. And thanks to that underlug and the revolver's solid weight, recoil stays in check even with full-house Magnum loads. It's kind of like driving an old-school muscle car, loads of power under the hood, but smooth and easy to handle. But don't just take my word for it. Let's look at how this 6-shooter holds up in the real world. These days, most police outfits run semi-autos as standard issue. But the GP100? It's found a solid foothold in specialized units where reliability is king, and there's zero room for failure. Take the Greek EKAM counter-terrorist team. These boys face down some of the hairiest situations you can imagine, and yep, they've been known to carry the GP100. Why? Simple. When you're dealing with life or death, there's no room for stovepipes or failures. A revolver like this just works. Every single time. Same story with the Serbian Special Anti-Terrorist Unit. They operate in flat-out brutal conditions, and they need a sidearm that won't throw in the towel. The GP100's straightforward design and bulldog toughness make it a natural fit for that kind of duty. Sure, it don't hold as many rounds as your average modern semi-auto, but what it lacks in count, it makes up for in bone-deep dependability. And looking a little closer to home, some local departments up in Canada stuck with the GP100 long after other outfits swapped over to semi-autos. Whether they were shooting .357 Magnum or .38 Special Plus P, those officers counted on that revolver for solid stopping power. And the main reason they kept it around? Trust. That kind of reliability don't go out of style. In fact, Ruger even built a special run of this revolver just for the New York Police Department called the GPNY. That version came with a double-action only trigger to meet NYPD standards, giving officers a steady, consistent pull with every shot. It was pretty much the same tough-as-nails GP100, just tuned up for the Big Apple's finest. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Aren't revolvers kind of old school? Why in the world would anyone carry one instead of a semi-auto these days? Fair ask, but the answer's as plain as day reliability. When things go sideways and a malfunction ain't an option, a revolver is real hard to beat. No slide to jam up, no magazine to fumble with, no finicky feed ramps. You load it, you pull the trigger, and it goes bang. Every single time. That's why, even now with all these high-capacity pistols on the market, the GP100 still earns its keep in certain circles. And I'll tell you what else, maintenance on this thing is a breeze. The trigger group pops out as one whole piece, so cleaning it up after a long day at the range is about as easy as it gets. If you're the type that likes to fiddle, you can swap out grips or parts without any real fuss. Kind of like working on an old classic pickup. Everything's right there in front of you, and you don't need some fancy degree to get under the hood. Bottom line, the Ruger GP100 ain't just another wheel gun. It's a tribute to smart design and good old-fashioned toughness. It may not be the slickest looking piece out there, but it's built for the long haul and does what it's supposed to when it matters most. Whether you're in law enforcement, shooting for sport, or just someone who values a sidearm that won't let you down, this revolver's earned its place in your collection. And that's a wrap on our deep dive into the Ruger GP100. If you've enjoyed the ride, go ahead and give us a like, tap that subscribe button, and ring that old notification bell so you won't miss a single episode from us here at Beam Firearms. We've got plenty more straight shooting, firearm reviews, gear rundowns, and real-world self-defense tips heading your way. Until next time, stay safe, stay ready, and keep shooting straight.